I'm Tina Fordham, and you're watching The Navigator, our digital playbook that looks at the intersection between geopolitics, financial markets, and the investment environment. We have a lot to catch up on. The pace of political developments lately has been relentless. I love this quote from Vladimir Lenin, who said that there are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks when decades happen. Lenin was talking about the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917, but it has to be said the last several weeks have seen more than the usual amount of political upheaval. We usually call summer the silly season, but that's not what's happening now. Welcome to the hot politics summer. We've had snap elections in the UK and France, the 75th NATO summit in Washington, an assassination attempt on former President Trump, the Republican National Convention, and President Biden's late-breaking departure from the US presidential race. All this, but global financial markets have been largely unperturbed. So the question I think we should be asking is this: will geopolitics strengthen the improving trend that investors are betting on, or complicate it? The first of the two snap elections this year happened here in the UK on July 4th. The UK has bucked the political trend of the rest of Europe by voting in a centre-left government with a landslide majority. What are the policy implications? I expect broad continuity in terms of British participation on Ukraine and NATO. We're already seeing an improvement in the mood music between the UK and Europe, and this is all likely to be positive for the UK's trade and growth outlook, especially if global central banks cooperate, and it'll be good for business sentiment as well. Meanwhile, in France, President Macron's gamble to call snap elections did succeed in marginalizing the far right, but has brought in a hung parliament. Macron stays on as president with a caretaker government in place, but this outcome makes it challenging to pass a budget in France this autumn, and it comes at a bad time for Europe, when French leadership is needed to help support the war effort in Ukraine, among other things. Turning now to our geopolitics navigator. As you can see at the far right, we continue to be concerned about the widening conflict in the Middle East. The outlook is complicated by the political distractions in Washington, and that means reduced pressure on Israel and Hamas to come to an agreement. I also want to highlight something we've been seeing in Europe lately: more episodes of sabotage. Security services have attributed these to Russia as part of its gray zone operations to bring the war to the West, and I expect these efforts to step up. Now for US elections. Until recently, the consensus view in markets has been an almost inevitable victory for Donald Trump, with a lot of optimism amongst US market participants about the potential upsides. I have been cautioning all year that markets were running too far ahead of the political process, and recent events have highlighted just how volatile this race has become. It's only July, and we've had two massive surprises. The failed assassination attempt on Donald Trump was a shocking instance of political violence, even by US standards. But not only did markets not react, the former president went on to speak at the Republican Party convention just a few days later with a bandaged ear. And in Milwaukee, Trump named his running mate J.D. Vance, a junior senator from the state of Ohio, lawyer and former venture capital investor who is best known for his autobiography, Hillbilly Elegy, as his VP. This news was, however, quickly overtaken by the announcement that President Biden would not seek a second term, instead endorsing his VP, Kamala Harris. So with Harris at the top of the Democratic ticket, we are now looking at a very different race for the White House. Can Harris win? We need to wait a couple of weeks to see what the polling data looks like post-announcement, but here's a snapshot. The upshot is that in the past few weeks, Kamala Harris was actually running a couple of points ahead of her boss, Joe Biden, but still a couple of points behind Donald Trump. Trump is still the favorite to win, and Harris will have a condensed period of time by US standards to sell herself to the public and gain their confidence. To win, she's going to need to win over some of the large contingent of independent voters and the anti-Trump vote. plus bring back some of the constituencies that formed the original Obama coalition, like the youth vote and minorities. Also, we shouldn't forget women and the extent to which the reversal of reproductive rights has been a galvanizing issue in US politics across the political spectrum. There's all to play for. One indicator to look at is how donors have reacted. After Biden endorsed Harris, the Democratic National Committee reported that it had raised the most money ever in a one-day period. This is the 5th US election that I've covered professionally, and it seems like every 4 years we say that this is the most important American election in our lifetimes. We started the year telling you that 2024 would be an inflection point, and the degree of change that US elections might bring is a big part of that concept. Whether it's the US role in global security and defense, artificial intelligence, trade, or climate change, the potential for policy divergence based on who wins the White House is high. The next signpost to watch in US politics will be the Democratic National Convention, starts in Chicago, August 15th, and the second US presidential debate on September 10th, if it happens. That's all for this episode of The Navigator. Thanks for watching, and we hope that your mind is now better prepared for what might come next. Get in touch directly if you want to book a briefing for your board or executive committee, and don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and our new Instagram channel, Geopolitics, Tina Fordham.